Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I am John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Good topic? Let's do it. What made you cut off a family member or relative? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I was routinely abused by my religious fanatic of a parent. I dislike calling him dad, and he doesn't deserve the title. He's been out of my life for a while now, and I'm infinitely better for it. My aunts would always ask us for money and get angry if we don't lend it to them, so we just cut all contact. We can't save them out of a situation they put themselves in. My mom is a lies through her teeth. She had gotten rid of all her cats so we could move in with her new boyfriend, who I only met a couple of times in my life. I was not comfortable being around him at all, and I would only eat a tortilla with a slice of cheese on it. I was failing high school, and I would get panic attacks at night. I finally moved to my dad's house and everything was better. I started talking to my mom again, but I had to cut her out again unless she got mental help. She's not good for my mental health. She thinks that God is coming and that only her church is what will be saved. It was more them cutting me off than the other way around, but I want nothing to do with them because of it. My grandmother on my mom's side is the family matriarch. You piss her off and she will hold a grudge and share her displeasure with everyone. She hosts all the family gatherings and controls who can show up or not. She's banned family members from funerals even. I once missed the Father's Day cookout. I'm not a father, and my parents are divorced, so my dad wasn't even going to be there and wasn't invited to the next 3 events. I live just down the street from her, total coincidence by the way, and can see all of my family members' cars outside her place. Then about 12 years ago, now she found out I wasn't a Christian. That is the worst thing possible in her book. She thinks I'm a Satanist, in fact. No idea where that idea came from. None of my cousins talk to me anymore. I occasionally see an aunt or uncle during rare events like my mom's wedding and my grandpa's funeral. If it wasn't for her cutting me off from my family, it would have been her constant guilt trips. She had a heart attack, and I ran to her house and held her hand while the paramedic was loading her into the ambulance, and all she could say was, "Why does it take me almost dying for you to see me?" This was after her turning the family against me, and excluding me from family gatherings too. I had 2 siblings. They both made bad choices. It ended in a fight, and one of them killed the other. I decided I couldn't be around all the violence anymore. Fighting is the only way this side of the family deals with anything. And then they cry about how they're cursed with so much violence and death. It's been really difficult, but it was necessary to get away. Went to live with my dad's side of the family, as was promised, a better life for me and my son after some trouble at home. Instead of a better life, I was controlled, not allowed to do anything despite being a fully grown adult, and they watched everything I did and argued with me and strengthened their control if I even talked to my friends or family back home. I was even banned from attending my maternal grandma's funeral, and I was reminded every day I was forbidden from going. Final straw was when I managed to get a pre-planned weekend away and came back to find they'd thrown away 90% of mine and my son's clothing and changed his entire routine and treated me like a problematic child. Planned my escape, despite them trying to stop me, and left with my son, now firmly no contact permanently. Years of therapy helped me learn not to blame myself for the failures of my parents. Unfortunately, it's not just one thing I can pinpoint as the sole reason I've cut family off. Ultimately, my decision came after some serious self-reflection and also came to the realization that these people carried way too much power over my mental health even as I came into my 30s. I'm still learning and growing every day as I approach 35, but most importantly, it's all going forward and never looking back again. Everybody is different, but there comes a point in life where you just know what you're done repeating negative cycles of life. Putting me through the equivalent of conversion therapy, treating me like a free maid, standing there sullenly watching Fox News and ignoring me while I was choking, using me as a pawn to help sue black family out of the neighborhood. I hate HOAs. and completely ignoring and steamrolling my emotional well-being for over 2 decades, and not being able to confront them about any of this because they'll deny to the death that it ever happened. Them disrespecting my now wife was the last straw. They were not invited to our wedding. Divorced my aunt and abandoned his daughter while favoring the son made the custody battle for the son a nightmare as well. My aunt was left broke, so I tutored her daughter through her university entrance exams for free, and she often ranted about her deadbeat dad to me, so I was often left fuming after our lessons. I walked past him at a shopping center one time, and he just kept staring at me before attempting to approach, but I quickly ran into a store to avoid talking to him. My mom's immediate family. They're really toxic and cruel people. I'm 37, soon to be 38, and I have a lifetime of examples, but this most recent one takes the cake, and was the reason why I decided they're officially dead to me. The day after my grandmother passed away, my aunts kicked my uncle to the curb. They all lived together, with some of his belongings in plastic shopping bags. On Thanksgiving morning, I was in town visiting for the weekend at 6 a.m. My one aunt, Diana, her real name, I don't give a, knocked on my mother's door and said, "Here, he's your problem now. He's autistic and has schizophrenia." And instead of leaving, she lingered outside my mother's house, waiting for the other sister, Jessica, real name once again, I don't give a, to get there, and they made a scene in the street. I called our town PD and said, "You better get somebody over here because I'm about to slap the shit out of some 50-year-old woman." We told the cops everything, and they were shocked. They said we could probably get them for an unlawful eviction, something along those lines, and my mom told me she'd handle it, but ended up letting it go because she couldn't handle the stress of taking her sisters to court, and I lived 5 hours away. My mom took him in for as long as she could, but she's getting older and was worried about what would happen to him if she suddenly passed away or got really sick. So she found a group home for him nearby and visits and calls him regularly. These absolute See You Next Tuesdays had the nerve to defend their behavior, and when I called them out on it, in response, Diana told me I was trash, just like my mother, but I think she's the trash. I don't think they know how close I was to calling both of their employers and letting them know what absolute pieces of shit they have working for them. I was so close. I did report them to our state for abuse of a disabled person, but I was told that the person still needs to be living in the home and currently experiencing the abuse in order for them to do anything. Yeah, that's total scumbaggery, so I'm glad that your relative found a group home and that your mom visits, but overall it sounds bad. Sorry. Last year I stopped talking to my mom. She's always been a complicated person. She has BPD, is financially unstable, and recently I'm convinced she's a narcissist. I've always tried to be patient with her, but every time one problem gets solved, another one comes up. Things came to a head when my wife came to get her dog to get groomed. We couldn't bring her back until the next morning because of the severe thunderstorms. The dog was in good hands, yet my mom, probably off her meds, was blowing up my phone demanding we bring her home immediately. When we finally arrived, my mom took the dog's leash and began screaming at my wife, accusing her of stealing her dog. She left her take the dog the day before, yet now my wife, the sweetest person, is suddenly an enemy? I ended up screaming back at her, telling her I'm done with her and blocked her. Until she gets help, I want nothing to do with her. This was back in the summer, August 2017. Due to the political atmosphere at the time and the location where I was working, my coworkers and I encountered a handful of racist individuals monthly. One night, I was texting my biological father how a customer asked me if I was a legal citizen for the second time there. His response, "Rights change." I cried and blocked him that night. Haven't talked to him since. I even changed my last name, court approved, because the paternal side of the family are white supremacists. Okay. I had a relative who was emotionally cheating on his wife. Their relationship wasn't good from the get-go, but both refused to get divorced. Every time they reached the point of separation, the wife runs to the family to calm the tension. One time she reached to my dad out of all people to be the judge. He suggested that her husband should immediately leave the house and find another place. He was insulted by the wife and her daughters almost immediately, and I honestly lost my sympathy towards them after that. I didn't like the husband before the multiple reasons, but the whole drama he brought to the family made me avoid him in a chance of meeting with him. Not cut off, but intentional emotional distance. My sister has proved over and over again that my family is not important, and she is modeling and reinforcing incredibly selfish behavior to her kids. Meanwhile, she places her kids in toxic situations and makes selfish decisions that directly affect them. I can't be close to that. It's all too painful. The relief she expressed when I finally said I can't deal with it anymore were the biggest blows to the heart. Like she didn't have to pretend to care anymore. My mental health can't take it. Distance it is. Hopefully her kids turn out okay despite their environment. And hopefully mine have a good relationship with their mom as they grow. My dad was too toxic to know. My mom is a real toxic person, but I could stand her. My dad was just too much though. Every time we'd talk on the phone, he'd have a new little bit of mind shrapnel to infect my thoughts with. Like telling me he always expected I'd kill myself one day. Or telling me that my lifetime of suffering had been pointless. Or making sure to tell me about all the expensive shit he was buying when over here we could barely make groceries and often didn't. Just a really hateful dude. Also, he was horribly abusive to us when we were kids, but in the same weird way families work, I was actually trying to forgive him for being evil and trying to establish some form of rapport with the person who had given me half my DNA. Aunt sided with her best friend when the best friend accused me, college-aged man, of having feelings for her daughter, 8th grade. It was the other way around, and I only saw her as a young cousin. Even the girl said I never give her the name or the time of day, but they didn't care. Stopped going to family functions if they were both there and blocked them.